Well, you're welcome. We're actually really thrilled to be here. Bill called me about 6 months ago and said, I do this day in Washington, D.C., and we'd really like to provide continuing education credit, and can you help me do that? And I work in continuing medical education. I'm a nurse with a PhD in higher ed administration. So people are always like, you do continuing medical education? I said, yes, well, that's what I do. And now we're actively involved with the continuing nursing education office and the School of Nursing. And we're really happy to be here because we understand that in order for us to really promote prevention, we have to make sure that the clinicians and the teams that we work with and that need ongoing information about new advances and changes in clinical practices and those kinds of things have the opportunity to learn about it, digest it, try it on, work with it a little bit so that they can integrate it into their practice. So I'm here to talk to you just for about a couple of things. One is in Virginia, we have a broad partnership of private, not-for-profit, and public leaders called the Tobacco Free Alliance of Virginia, which is really important because Virginia is still, at the end of the day, a tobacco state. We really work on trying to focus on pricing of tobacco products. Trying to get an increase in the excise tax associated with tobacco is no small feat. We're also sharing ideas and looking at approaches to prevention and cessation. We've done a lot of work in open air spaces. The Virginia parks are now tobacco free. We've been working with a number of other groups. We've got 132 high schools that are now comprehensive tobacco-free properties. We're also working now with universities in Virginia to try to get them to do the same thing. We also want to educate policymakers. It is very difficult in Virginia because we still have tobacco farmers. There has been a lot of tobacco settlement money that has gone to redevelop and encourage these farmers to look at other products and to develop sections of the state that are hard hit by those changes. The flip side of it is that for all of the smoking that happens, the costs often go to Medicare and Medicaid, and that those costs aren't linked back to that directly to that. There seems to be some kind of a disconnect, and the amount of money that Medicare and Medicaid could save if we really were very successful in our tobacco cessation projects would be huge for the Commonwealth of Virginia. So one of the things, since we have the Highland folks here, and I know we have some UVA students here, there's a group campaign called Y Street, which is a student-run program in the Commonwealth of Virginia, who have been really awesome. They have helped us with getting the these 132 school districts to be tobacco-free. They also serve a role in that they are some of our monitors and auditors, and going into the retailers, the smoking retailers, to not only identify where they're located, but then to tell us whether they're in compliant with federal and state regulations about placement of ads and placement of cigarettes and other tobacco products. I have a really interesting story to tell all of you because I think it reflects the opportunities that are available to us. I was fortunate in our office at the University of Virginia was fortunate to be involved in a project called Cease Smoking Today, which was in existence around 2007 and through 2012. And we really were focused on the new ARC standards around the new standards for tobacco cessation, and we needed to get them out to the clinicians so that we could start to change it. One of the important components that we utilized was motivational interviewing. Motivational interviewing is the opportunity to have a collaborative relationship with your patient, to actually connect with them and be their support and their advocate, as opposed to being the person who says, you need to go do this. It's more, how can I help you do this? Are you interested in doing this? How can we develop a plan together? But that's not always easy to change when you're very busy in your clinical practice. So we took a group of volunteers to the NASCAR race in Richmond at the International Raceway and literally set up a tent in the middle of the corporate midway where we were surrounded by tobacco companies on all sides except one where there was a barbecue sauce place. Thank you. And everybody loved the barbecue sauce. So it was really, really nice that we were right next to barbecue because while they were waiting in line, we had a captive audience to talk to. But what we started to do was say to them, are you a smoker? Are you interested in quitting? We asked them some questions. It was amazing to us how many, not only people who were either smokers or people who had quit smoking who wanted to tell us their stories. I wish I'd have had a video camera of all of the people who wanted and needed to tell us their stories because it is such a huge addiction. But they wanted to talk to us. There were colleagues and family members. One husband came in with his cell phone and said, "You're going to talk about smoking cessation, right?" And we said, "Yes." He goes, "Here, talk to my wife." And he handed us her cell phone. We're like, okay, all right. But it was really interesting. We talked to 600 people the first weekend and 1,000 people the second. They were not people that we had any kind of a relationship with, that we were in the middle of a corporate midway. We had one of our members who was really motivated, and he stood at the exit of one of the trucks that was handing out chewing tobacco while all of the women were waiting for their significant others to come through. And he kept saying, "Are you really going to kiss them when they're like chewing tobacco?" And the girls are like, "Oh, yeah, we don't really like it." So he's handing out materials like crazy. So I think there are wonderful opportunities. And I think the mindfulness things that Kim talked about are incredibly important. The cravings don't go away. They don't go away for those of us who love chocolate. I mean, we all have our cravings, but we have to help people be thoughtful about it. The other story that I'll tell you real quickly is I had a friend who did a lot of smoking cessation work, and he kept working with this one woman, and she was like, "No, I'm not ready. No, I'm not ready. No, I'm not ready to quit." He said one day she came bursting into his office and said, "I need to quit today. Today, I have to quit today." And he said, "Well, that's really great, but why today?" And she said, "My dog was diagnosed with emphysema, and her dog was her constant companion." So the take-home story for me is that oftentimes people can't do and make those decisions for themselves, but they can do it for their loved ones and their family around them. So the issues of second and third hand smoke may actually resonate with some of your communities and some of your patients in a way that can get you to the conversation that you hadn't really thought about. We've fortunately now got a regulation in Virginia where if you have an 8-year-old child or younger in your car, you're forbidden from smoking. But it's not a primary offense, it's a secondary offense, so that if they stop you for something else and they find out you're smoking and you've got a kiddo in your car, you're in trouble. But I think that's the important part. Even for the families that weren't ready to quit smoking, when they had their children there, I'd say, "Well, are your children going to be smokers?" And they'd be like, "Oh no, oh no." So I think we really have an opportunity here to really engage communities and engage families in a very different kind of way, because there are oftentimes consequences that they haven't really thought about. Well, it's my choice and it's my life. And, well, yes, but what about your children's life or your nephews or your nieces or your mother or someone else? So we're really thrilled to be here today. Bill is an absolute force of nature. We are really happy to be involved and believe that the prevention of cancer is critically important. So I'll pass it over back to you, Bill.